Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Say on Target, Games Radar Plus's weekly look at a galaxy far, far away. With me this week are Dave Bradley of SFX and Total Film, Jordan Farley of SFX, and I'm Richard Edwards, I'm the editor of SFX. Now, if you were watching last week, you probably noticed that there was an absence of moments from the prequels. Now, that's going to continue this week, but there are a couple of honourable mentions for the prequels I want to get in. First of all, I'm going to say the Phantom Menace trailer was amazing. If you remember back that first trailer, you know, it captured the world. It was really the birth of the trailer on the internet, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually, the whole campaign for it was exciting. I mean, I was so excited by the poster as well, with the Anakin Skywalker casting the shadow. And I mean, in terms of building atmosphere, incredible.
And it's easy to forget, actually, isn't it, how excited we were then, you know, because the prequels haven't been remembered particularly fondly. But back then, you know, and that was so beautifully edited, it sort of did pick out some great bits.
It felt so Star Wars, and in fact, the trailer had moments in it from arguably the best moment in the prequel trilogy with the lightsabers.
Mm-hmm. Good segue, Dave, because we're going to talk about obviously Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul, which is the best lightsaber fight in the whole.
It is.
Movies, isn't it?
It's the first where you get a real sense of what Jedi's can do, what Jedi's in their prime can do. Because you see Vader and Obi-Wan fight in A New Hope, and you know it's loaded with like emotional weight, but there's no like physicality to their fight at all. Like they're just two blokes just kind of wildly swinging each other.
I think you actually went over the top there. I think you're moving a little bit too much.
Yeah, but in episode 1, Duel of the Fates, it's just they're jumping around each other. It's
So
really
well
vicious. Yeah, the choreography is amazing.
Yeah. And also, it's got an incredible piece of music over the top as well. So you know, it's got the Duel of the Fates.
Yeah. And of course we've never actually seen a Jedi fight with a double-ended lightsaber before, so it's a different kind of lightsaber fighting style as well, and he's just so fast and so vicious.
I mean, Ray Park, of course, martial arts expert.
And he does totally bring that physicality to it, you know, the sense of movement.
He does.
I mean, the other prequel movies really lacked him, didn't they? There was, you know, Christopher Lee had the voice, but it didn't feel
have the presence.
There's something animalistic about Maul, isn't there?
There was, just a great character. Such a shame that, I mean, you know, he doesn't say very much, but as an image, he's remarkable.
Of course, Peter Serafinovich doing the voice.
But it says something about the prequel trilogy that it's hard to pick moments from it that are as iconic as those from the original trilogy, with the exception of that lightsaber fight, because it's very exciting. But that's it, really. I mean, you can go through and say, okay, there are some scenes from previous later films that are okay,
quite cool, but nothing that kind of Okay.
Nothing iconic.
Now a moment that definitely is the trench run from the original Star Wars, from A New Hope.
Arguably my favourite film in all of cinema. I think it's amazing. I'm on the edge of my seat every single time I watch it to this day. And I know loads of it is lifted from things like Dam Busters. I mean, it's very much in the it's influenced heavily by war films, but it is a fantastic shot, a scene. Not just in terms of the fact that it's really thrilling and it's really well done with the models, and it's also just narratively, it's the moment where Luke embraces the Force, where Han embraces his good guy nature, where where the Force itself is a participant, and you also see how much C-3PO and R2 care about each other. I mean, actually, just in terms of a bit of storytelling, it's also great.
Do you
agree?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, Luke, you turned off your targeting computer. What a moment.
And it's this again. It's the speed of it. You know, the speed it appeared to be going, and it's just economical storytelling. You kind of know everything you need to. You know, you've got Luke, and he's sort of trying to prove himself, and then Darth Vader, and you know how is he going to get away from Darth Vader? And of course that's. Is it a surprise? I don't know. It must have been a surprise at the time when Han Solo comes in with the sun behind him. It's just a beautiful shot.
Yeah, it is an incredible shot, and it is. You know, I say, still watching it today, it's still a surprise when he comes over the horizon, even though you know it's going to happen, because it's just the way it's paced.
The real sort of, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in that scene that, again, you know, it's very easy to look at things like Dam Busters as an influence, but also they were drawing on things like westerns as well, because you have things like the X-wings locking S-files in an attack location. I believe what they really wanted to do was show like a gunfighter pulling out his weapons, so they kind of go into that high noon situation with, and they draw their weapons as they go in. And there's lots of cinematic influences on that scene that make it really interesting.
Yeah.
Next, asteroids really do concern me. What a wonderful sequence. Comes straight after the AT-ATs, the Millennium Falcon trying to get away from the the Empire. It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's just, I mean, again, this would probably be my favourite sequence along with the AT-ATs. I think it's just wonderful.
It's gorgeous, and much like most of the best moments in Star Wars films, John Williams' music is so integral to what makes that sequence so beautiful. Like that haunting just melody that plays over this whole sequence, where they're weaving in and out of asteroids. Well, TIE fighters being knocked out.
Well, it's like TIE fighter billiards, isn't it?
Yeah,
and then
exactly,
that wonderful bit at the end where they go close to one of the big ones. And, the Millennium Falcon sort of goes sideways to get through the canyon. Because apparently, so when Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon flies very, very flat.
Right.
And they actually had quite big debates when they went into Empire Strikes Back about whether it should do the loops and stuff. I'm so glad they did.
Yeah,
so that
definitely.
gratuitous shot at the end of Empire where it just goes over a cloud. I mean, you go through it.
But you're right. I mean, in the first film, In New Hope, even when he's talking about being able to manoeuvre away from other ships, he basically stays on a plane, doesn't he? It looks like in The Force Awakens that J.J. Abrams has taken it even further, and even in that trailer you see much more movement in the flight path of the Millennium Falcon.
It was just the camera moves.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, again, that was just the best sequence, wasn't it? Now, a sort of slight change of pace now. Possibly the most emotional moment in the whole of the original trilogy. I Love You, I Know. Han Solo's about to be frozen in carbonite. Princess Leia says, I know you, I love you. And Han still manages to be really, really cool.
It's just like Han versus Greedo. It says so much about his character. Like 2 words. It's crazy. Like, it's just the perfect response for that character. And of course, that wasn't scripted. Harrison Ford came up with that in rehearsals, or I don't know if it was actually on set when they were filming, but he said it was certainly his idea, and it just the perfect summation of that character in that moment.
Because I Love You Too, it would have been originally. I mean, that would have just not been right.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's amazing, and it's but it is a horrific moment actually. We're seeing it in the cinema at the same time, because also, of course, for Chewbacca it's incredibly terrible as well. But yeah, no, it's a great moment and a great line.
And also, I think what a brave film Empire Strikes Back is, because Han Solo, who's the best character in the film, he's cool, he's a hero, and he's not in the last half hour. And you don't know what's happened to him, and he's turned into a coffee table, and and it just, it's just not like it just as a structure, it's just weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a bleak cliffhanger, but it works so powerfully. Like, I can't imagine the sheer anticipation there must have been after the Empire Strikes Back, waiting for Return of the Jedi.
Now, going back to the original movie now, we've talked a little bit about the serial element of it and the sort of 30s movie, and there's a bit in the Death Star where Luke and Leia swing across the ravine, which is just pure sort of 30s serial. You can see Errol Flynn doing it, can't you?
Right. Yeah. That manoeuvre is very much a black and white serial heroes.
Yeah, even like putting his arm around Leia and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's old fashioned, but it just.
But it's wonderful, isn't it? There you've got the stormtroopers sort of on the floor, sort of trying to get an angle to shoot through the hole under the door. And
well, so there's an interesting fan theory that the reason why that the stormtroopers don't hit them, and why they're terrible aim, is because they were ordered to let them go. And I know that becomes a plot point later. They're allowed to leave the Death Star on their track back to the Rebel base. But there is a fan theory that started much earlier, from a moment they realised they were on board the station, which is why they don't get shot even through the door.
Sounds like just a terrible excuse for the fact that they're awful shots.
Terrible shots. Yeah. And of course, it's intercut with Han Solo and Chewie doing what they do. I mean, I'm not sure they do it particularly well, but Han managed to make that bit where he's running away from stormtroopers, not really knowing what he's doing, look really cool.
It's hilarious. It's a great scene. But actually,
it's what he does so well, isn't it? Like, even in moments of absolute terror and hopelessness, like, he still manages to come out looking really freaking cool. How on earth did he do that? Everyone else looks like a coward. He looks like the coolest man in the galaxy.
I think we were talking about this the other day. If they tried to do that in Guardians of the Galaxy, much as I like Chris Pratt, it would have felt like a clownish thing. And here, Harrison Ford just plays it completely just normal. This is just what I'm doing, and I think it works so well because of it.
Yeah. There's something about Indiana Jones in that as well. That same Harrison Ford thing about sort of resourcefulness in the face of obvious defeat.
What?
I should say the whole Death Star Canyon thing, but another piece of terrible Imperial design.
What is it doing in that ship? What purpose does it serve? Death pit.
Someone didn't think it through. Speaking of Death Stars, the destruction of the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi is very different to the trench run in the first one, but this was really, I think, Industrial Light and Magic showing what they could do with the space battle, wasn't it?
Right.
It was, yeah, the Millennium Falcon going into the belly of the beast, kind of dodging all the pipes and mechanics and the works inside the Death Star. Just awesome. It's kind of like the speeder sequence on Endor a little bit, in the fact that they're constantly dodging and weaving in and out.
It's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
And it loses the radar dish.
Yeah, the radar
which
dish
they have
gets
replaced
knocked
now, of course.
Yeah.
with the rectangular one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, maybe.
Yeah, but it's a remarkable sequence, isn't it? And very different to the destruction of the first Death Star. I mean, you'd think blowing up another Death Star would probably just look exactly the same, but it's like visually, it's a very different kind of beast.
The Empire didn't really learn from the first one, though, did it?
It didn't. No. They need to protect their energy cores a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
And finally, I mean, this is probably the most remembered moment, I think. I am your father. Now, weird for me. I mean, you might be the same, Jordan. I've always known. I think that Darth Vader was Luke's father. I think by the time I'd seen it, people had told me. So, but I still don't think it's kind of lost its impact. I mean, it's just, I mean, what a thing to do to your lead character.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I remember being surprised at the time. It was great, and trying to not have any spoilers before I went to the cinema, and then when I went in that. So it's interesting. The Darth Vader comic is out now, written by Kieran Gillen, and that actually provides some backstory to his thought processes when he realises that the son of Skywalker is still alive, and actually that comic has a little bit of a through thought that leads right up to why Vader would turn against the Emperor in the final scene as well, because he realises that Palpatine has kept his son from him, and that sort of starts a cascade that leads through that story, which is interesting, because you sort of see Vader betraying his Sith master at that moment, which I find actually quite as interesting for the character. By the time you reach that point in the story, as interesting as the revelation that Luke is his son, the fact that Vader isn't actually loyal to the Emperor either, who's happily
I spoke to Dave Filoni, who's the showrunner on Star Wars Rebels, and obviously that Vader is going to be a big player in season 2 of Rebels, and the way he saw it was after Padme died, he's in quite a dark place, and he's very almost nihilistic, and actually finding out about Luke makes him realise, actually, between the two of us, we could be in charge here. And it kind of reawakens something in him, the sort of this emotional side. So, which I think we're seeing there. And I mean, it's just beautifully done, isn't it? I mean, again, another canyon on Cloud City.
Yeah. Not really sure why it's there again, but it's interesting that they basically tried to keep it a secret from everyone before it came out. I think there were about 4 people that knew, like George Lucas, James Earl Jones, and Mark Hamill were like basically the only people that knew in the whole world until it actually screened. And there's a story about Harrison Ford sitting next to Mark Hamill at the premiere, and even he didn't know. And he leant over and said, like, what? Why didn't you tell me?
Of course, there's loads more moments we could have picked, because pretty much the whole of the original trilogy is awesome, with the possible exception of the Ewoks. If there's anything you think we missed, let us know in the comments below. But in the meantime, we'll be back next week, and may the Force be with you.